Hello, welcome to my messy fingers. This is going to be a new tutorial series for a mini album, and it is going to feature the newest release by Ciao Bella, and it's called Magic Dream. Now I'm going to be playing with 12 by 12 paper. This is the paper pad. I have two of those, and I have, hold on, I'm sorry. Take them out of here. I should have had them ready. My deepest apologies. And I'm going to have two of the patterns pad as well as the A4 pad. And I have some gold trinkets that were sent to me by Scrap and Create, and that's what we're going to be playing with. I did find some, I'm using a salmon colored to wrap, and I did find it on Amazon. It is a 65-pound weight. I don't like it so light, but it was the closest I could get with what I was trying to match for the album. And it is called Next Day Labels Pastel Salmon Cardstock. It's 65-pound weight, and it's 50 sheets. And I'll put the link down below in the description field as to for Amazon for where this is. If you've got a different color cardstock that you choose, that is entirely your option, and it's just a matter of what pleases your eye. So we are going to make a 9 by 8 album. So it's going to be 9 inches tall, and it's going to be 8 inches in the width. And we have a 1 7/8 by 9 spine. So you're going to want your spine piece, and then you're going to want to have 2 of the 9 by 8 panels. Now, I bind these with a product called Tyvek. It's a shipping envelope. Excellent resiliency. And as the album opens and closes, it opens and closes on the Tyvek so that this is kind of sliding over it, if you will. And it prevents the cardstock from doing the sliding up against the chipboard, which can cause wear and tear and that breakage that you see over time. So if you have a different type of album you want to make, and you want to use a different type of binding material, that is absolutely your prerogative. But this is how I'm going to make my album. So I have 2 strips that are measuring 8 7/8 by 2 inches. I score here at, I scored my first score at 7/8, and the next one I scored at 1 1/8. And then on the reverse side, I put my tape in order to have it bind up against on this side. Now I'm using some acrylic tools that I have in my Etsy shop. I'll provide a link for those as well. But they also act as my guide for keeping my spacing this equal size between all the panels. So it will, I use it here and I use here, so I make sure I'm level here, and that means I'm level down here. I'm at kind of a disadvantage where I have an angle that I'm playing with when I make these, so these I end up having as my guide. But these acrylic dividers come in different lengths, so they make it easy for me. Let's get this thing put together. Now, I hope you've got your stuff covered or cut by now. Enough of me bragging about. So let me get my picker tool, and then we are going to start to lay, lay the Tyvek. There's a link for this down below in the description field. You can get it at Scrap and Create. They sell it 2 sheets per pack, and those 2 sheets will make a lot of albums if you want to continue to use my method of album making. Or maybe you can incorporate it into yours, because I got to tell you, this to me is just the best way to do it. All right, so let's get these in here. I taped this down so that it would keep it in place for illustration, but now we need to move it. All right. So I'm going to center this. Might help if I took this tape off first. There we go. All right, so now I'm going to center this. And then I'm going to bring this in right up next to it. Nicely done. Burnish. And then we're going to repeat for the other side. Now, unfortunately, silly me, I put my thinnest tape on first. So I am going to peel both of those off. All right, let's get this centered in here. Okay, nice and even. All right, so now we're going to start to wrap. This paper, I like to play with 12 by 12 papers because I get I think a better layout for where the seam is going to be. But because this is only 8.5 inches across, I'm using one as my centerpiece. And that means my seams are going to be out here, and that's fine. I just don't want them anywhere near here. But that means it's taking 3 sheets to get this done. So you're going to have 2 sheets, so you're going to measure 6 3/8 by 11 inches, and they're going to flank each side of this full-size piece. So I'm going to go ahead and get this done and lay the paper, follow the tape up. Perfect. And then we will set the paper down, follow it up. Now, this should leave you with approximately 1 inch on each end and 1 inch here on the long sides. Now, to get this attached to the cardstock, we're going to have to put some tape on the reverse side. So let's turn this over. I'm going to use 1/2 inch right up next to the gussets. And in order to find my edges, I'm going to fold this, give it a good press so it's nice and snug, and then run my tape up. And then I'm going to do the same on this side. And again, if you have a different album method, that's fine. But please understand, I work with 5/8 of an inch in gussets when I get to making the pages. So you'll need to, if you want to have good room, you'll want to make sure that you're accommodating a 5/8 of an inch gusset. I do a lot of build-ups as much as at times as 1/4 of an inch, and it does take up your seam line, your seam section, when we go to do that. All right, let's get some 1/4 inch tape, and I am going to run one right up the center. And then I'm going to go on the end, in the middle, and the middle again. It feels so strange. I took a couple of months off because of the holidays, and now I'm, let's get back into the rhythm of things. It just feels a little different. Try and get back in the swing. Oh, and I might as well preface, I'm not a perfect crafter. I make mistakes. So just be prepared for that. I do try to fix them. I do try to point them out so that you don't make those mistakes. Now we need to run tape around this perimeter of this paper because we're going to be folding it over the chipboard. And my apologies, I do have to flop this around quite a bit. And this will be the last one here for the cardstock. But I need to give a good burnish. This hard rubber spatula comes with those acrylic, and I've got to tell you, I'm using it as my burnish tool. It gives me great relief on my hands because I'm holding something this wide rather than something this wide, easier on my knuckles. And when I need to burnish things like this, I get a better burnish coverage. I'm not having to do it too much. All right, now we're going to pretend we're going to turn this over, and then we're going to pretend that this is sitting this way. Grab your 3/8 of an inch tape, and I think this one's going to run up. And now we're going to run 3/8 of an inch tape all along the inside of our chipboard. I think I ran out of tape. Pretty close. Oh, I just did it. Pardon me, I need to find my other 3/8 inch. Here we go. One last time. Okay, so this is what it will look like once we've peeled all this off and got this centered and committed. This is what you're going to have, the 2 rows of tape. So I want to make sure before I start committing my tape that I have this centered. So like I said, I want roughly 1 inch on each end, and I want roughly 1 inch top to bottom. Gosh, that spaced pretty good. So I'm going to palm firmly with this hand so that it doesn't move now, because that's so frustrating when you get it laid out and then it starts moving around on you. And then I'm going to take the tape off of the spine piece. Pick this up and lay it over. I'm going to turn it over and give it a good burnish. All right. Now we're going to start to peel these sections off. Before we do, when we go to lay this over, just don't go lay it over like this. You're going to want to make sure that you give a little bit of a gentle tug so that this Tyvek stays open, and then lay it down, because this Tyvek can move on you. It can squish, it can twist. So just when you get ready, just pull it, give it a nice gentle tug, and then lay it down. That will ensure that you have left your hinge wide open. Okay, there we go. And we're going to repeat the process on this side. This part goes kind of fast when you get this far. Okay, pick it up, give it a nice firm tug, lay it down. Good burnish, get the air bubbles out, get that tape committed to the paper. Okie dokie. Next, it's time to miter our corners. And I do love my miter tool. I've used it for quite a while now. It is also available on my Etsy site, and I will provide a link for it down below in the description field. Almost all the supplies you will find listed in the description field. So if you want to know what something is or where to get it, that's where you'll find it. And if it's not there, it's because it's in my own stash, but I'll try and let you know that I'm using something from my own stash. I need to turn this around. I've got it kind of at an angle that's not going to work for me. There we go. Okay. That tool can be used in quilting also. If you look it up, once you go to my Etsy site, look it up, you'll be able to see what uses you can use with it. All right, so let's start with taking some of this tape off. And I'm going to start at the top. Now, with this being 65-pound weight, it is going to bend over quite easily when I go to burnish it, but because it's so thin, it's going to get a bit of a workout, so I am going to run just a bead of glue here along the top of the chipboard. So as the paper makes contact, it will help seal that. Okay, I'm going to pull these back just a hair. I'm not pulling them all the way off because I don't want tape sticking to my arms. Okay, center, down and out. And then we're going to smoosh, turn our corners in. Okay, let's repeat that process up here. Again, we're going to pull these ends back just a tad bit. I'm going to run that bead of glue here again. This is where the cardstock comes into contact with that chipboard. And I want to give it every opportunity to stick. All right, let's turn it up and let's start to bend it over. Whoops, sorry. Okay. Okay, time to take those off. I so apologize. I'm using a bit of pressure, so that's why it does that. Okay, nice cornering there. Okay, so we have that part done. Now, I'm going to turn this over. I want to give it one more good burnish. Now, our hinges here. I want to push my paper into that hinge. I want to identify where the edges of the chipboard are, and with the tape on that cardstock, as it makes contact with the Tyvek, it will hold it in place. Now, be careful when you press in here and what tool you're using to press, because you don't want to tear this. No way to fix it short of ripping this apart, or you're going to have to run some glue to seal that. But once you've got that done and you close this, you've got some really super nice crisp corners. Now, our centerpiece. You are going to want to cut a piece that is going to measure 6 by 7 7/8. I do not want this to go all the way top to bottom. I don't like seeing paper edges when you're working an album and you see the paper edge like this. So I'm backing it off about 1/16 of an inch off of each end. And we're going to place this in here as so, and that's going to cover up the middle of the album. Now, I need to put some tape. I'm going to run 1/2 inch tape around this. Where'd it go? There it is. I love my little tape and tear tool. This guy here, I got it from Scrap and Create. It just helps to make some nice, clean edges, and I'm not having to use scissors and get my scissors all gummy. Okay, I am only taping that section that is the chipboard. The paper will be taped down by the tape we just put on that 6-inch piece. And then I'm just going to run 3/8 of an inch. So 1/2 inch with the 3/8 running alongside of it on the 2 outer pieces. And that should give us enough coverage. For when we place this. Now this being 6 inches across, you've got a 1 7/8 here. You're going to try to balance the width in between all these pieces. So it's going to look like this. So you're going to have tape roughly here and here, leaving these ends unattached except for this, okay? All right, so we're just going to balance this with my eyeballs. And again, I kind of firmly hold it down. I'm going to remove one strip of tape so I can get that committed. And then I'll come in here and take this one out. All right, let's take these off. Now, I'm not going to burnish yet. I'm going to just lay this down against this tape because I'll show you why here in a minute. I'm just going to gently, once I get all this, because we're going to do the same thing. We're going to identify where this hinge is, and we're going to push this paper in, so I don't want to have a lot of resistance with the tape being fully burnished. That would allow for a little bit of flexibility. So I'll take the framework off. Again, just let it lay there lightly. By not burnishing the edges yet, it allows for me to do this, to push this in there. And then when I do burnish, it will burnish, allowing for this to continue to lay flat. Now the seam I want to find, oh dang it. The seam I want to find is, let me use this, is this one right here. Identify the inside seam the most. There. So we've got it all done. Again, we still, whoops, I need to burnish that a little bit better. Tight corners. Look at that. Ta-da. All right. So now 2 pages are going to fit on this 1 7/8 spine. Each piece is going to measure 8 7/8 in the height because we want it to match this piece right here. I'm going to put a 1/2 inch tape. My the hinge I just built on this is 5/8. I'll show you here in just a second. So I cut this at 8 7/8, and then I scored at 5/8. I didn't trim the length because I need to find out if this length is going to work for the inside of the album. So I'm going to pretend it's laying down, and it's going to be perfect because it comes about 1/4 inch off the edge. So I do believe this is 8 1/2. So it's perfect. Hold on here. So 8 5/8 in the height by 8 1/2 inches in the width, and you're going to have a 5/8 score. All right, so let's burnish this really good. Now I'm going to lift this up. This edge is going to back off of this chipboard seam here by just about 1/16 of an inch. I don't want it right on that seam. Just going to tack it down gently. I'm going to make sure this is laying down straight and not askew, and then I'll commit. Now I'm going to lay this over one more time. Sometimes when you go to burnish, it kind of messes things up. Looks good. Okay, so we're going to put tape on this. And we're going to give it a good burnish. And then I'm going to tuck this seam right up underneath this. Nice and gentle, top to bottom. Just going to tack these edges. I'm going to let it lay down, make sure it's laying straight. Gently tack it. We're even. Yes. Okay. All right, folks. That is our album. We are done making it. The next video will be embellishing the outside of this. So until then, bye-bye.